coin collectors, and welcome to DC Coin World International Coin Channel. And today we're going to take a look at the 1955 Jefferson nickel from the United States of America. We're going to get out our pen with a green on it and take a look here. It says, "In God We Trust," in front of Jefferson. It says Liberty behind him. There's a star there between Liberty and the 1955. And we can't tell from the front, of course, in 1955 what the mint is on this. The mint's markings on the 1955 were still on the back on the side of Monticello. This one looks pretty good. We also don't see the FS down there because they didn't bring that back until the 60s. The Felix Schlag, who was the engraver's initials, were not put back on there until the 60s. It's a smooth edge coin, and this, once we get to the back, we'll be able to see that it is a Denver coin. Now, this coin at the Denver Mint, they made a lot of them. They made 74.464 million. So 74 million of these were made at the Denver Mint, and about 8.2 million were made at the Philadelphia Mint. I got this coin actually in a Whitman folder as a 1953. This was under the 1953 D, in the 1953 D slot in the Whitman folder. Didn't do me much good, but I said, well, let's make some lemonade out of this lemon if we can. And so let's see if there's anything that we can find on this that would make this more valuable. First off, it doesn't really look the same. I guess there's a little bit of the same there, so you could see how you could get the 3 and the 5 mixed up a little bit, but it really, if you look at it, even with the naked eye, without the magnification, you should be able to tell the difference. But anyways, it was in as a 3. I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to keep moving on and try to find another 3D. Now, are there any things that are really special or expensive or good about the 1955? Well, one of the things that was happening in 1955 was that they didn't make any at the San Francisco Mint. In 1954, they did make them at the San Francisco Mint. So here's a 54. We flip it over and we see that there's an S for San Francisco. And that's a pretty nice S. If you look at the 1954 coins, you'll find that there's some very collectible 1954 coins where they put an S over a D. They essentially put the S over the Denver Mintmark because they had some dies from Denver. And they kind of retooled them and put an S over a D. This is not the S over the D. We could see a lot more if it was. It's kind of a messy S, but it's not the S over the D. Well, it turns out not only did they mess up by putting an S over a D in 1954, but in 1955, when they didn't make any San Francisco Mint coins, they sent the unused reverse dies, which is what you put on the back. This is the reverse die. This is the obverse die, of course. They sent the unused reverse dies from San Francisco to Denver, and Denver actually used them on some coins, but then put the D over the top. So if you can find one of these where there is a D on top of an S, that would be great for 1955. 1955, if you can find a D over an S, it's worth probably $25 minimum, as much as $300 if you can get up to MS65. One of the things you'll find about the 1955 coins in general is that they were messy, they weren't done well. You can almost never see the steps, even in one that's in really good condition. Why is that? Well, they were starting to worry a little bit about hoarding, and so they made a huge number of them. But they'd already made a huge number of them in 54, so they just kind of ran through them as quickly as they could. On the back it says E pluribus unum at the top. This is Monticello, and you see it says Monticello underneath. 5 cents here, United States of America, and then D for the Denver Mint. So if you can find a D on top of an S from 1955, or an S on top of a D from 19 54, that's where you're going to find your real money. Remember that in 1955, they still had 5 full steps. They didn't go to 6 steps until 1990, but you're going to be very unlikely to see the steps at all in these coins from the 50s. Here's another one. Uh, Here's another one. So this is the S. This is the just the regular Philly. Um, you're going to be, and this is a Philly that we just looked at from 1954. So you're not going to see the the steps. You're not going to see hardly any stuff on almost all of the 1955 coins. In fact, PCGS just says, I mean NGC. PCGS has some that are valuable, but NGC says that they did such a rush job on these that you won't find many in MS65 or over at all. NGC says an MS65 in the 55 or the 55D is going to be worth at least $25. What about the proof coins? Well, they did make some proof coins. Um, in fact, they made them in 2 different ways. They made them in what's called a box pack and a flat pack. Um, those are worth between $100 and $120 each right now, and they made about 400,000. They also made some PDS uncirculated coins, um, and they made about 50,000 of those. They sold them for 357, and they're worth $360 now. So if you can find an uncirculated 1955 PDS set, that's going to be worth in the hundreds, because those are pretty much the only quality coins that they made in 1955, or almost only. All right, that's all we have today from DC Coinwell International Coin Channel, and that is our 1955 D Jefferson nickel.